yes, a very good morning to you, Grenada, on this a Wednesday morning here in the Spice Hour. Today happens to be the third day of April, 2019. Nice of you folks to join us this morning. As always, we try to put together a really neat little package for you in our quest for good governance. Yeah, good governance. That's what we're all about in this country. Today, our rundown reads as follows. Here we go. To run, to throw, jump, and soca. Or not. Yeah. Curious title, I would say. But don't go scratching your head, because in just a wee bit, you're going to find out what that is all about. Okay? I see that TF is there already this morning. Good morning to you, TF. Boy, you get full marks for punctuality. Next up, we're going to be dealing with some observations from a visitor who came to the island and left only, I think it was on Saturday morning she left. And she has given us a little idea of some of the things she observed here, and made a couple of suggestions, and I hope they'll be taken to heart. Guess what? The national report is back. Don't know what happened yesterday, but they didn't have one published on the Gov website, but they're back. And of course, this morning we're also going to be chiming in with our friend who, by the way, happens to be on the road this morning, Sherron. Sherron had to make an emergency trip up to Florida, but I see that she's popped up here already this morning on Facebook, so Sherron's going to be with us very shortly. So let's get started with this morning's lineup. All right. How relevant should a soca show be at the staging of the upcoming inaugural secondary school games? Will it take away from the true character of the games? Given the current reputation of soca music, will it adversely impact the morality of our youth? Just about a year ago, our Prime Minister seemed to have a high reverence for the Lenten season. And even the National Democratic Congress weighed in on the use of certain lyrics during the season. What has happened between then and now? For those of you who may have missed the pronouncements made in the run-up to the last election, let me jog your memory just a wee bit. First,
in recognizing our Christian society and what it stands for and we stand for with them, of course, we all are Christians generally. We will not be having any calypso activity in our national activities from next week, but we'll be having a lot of gospel music. So you're going to still see I can't sit down, I can't sit down, and I can't sit down.
We condemn the use of vulgarity and profanities in calypso, not just during the period of Lent, but at all times. The NDC shall be using the music of the people to communicate our message, to promote our party and our candidates.
All right, those were a couple of clips from the campaign trail in the run-up to the March 13th elections last year. Well, at yesterday's post-cabinet briefing, the matter was raised once more. And here is how the Education Minister, Emmeline Peer, responded.
I'd like to note, I noticed Mr. Killer is in the lineup for the entertainment part of the games. given limited supervision because it's not the intercall games and having the buy-in from teachers and parents and so. Are you prepared to deal with Mr. Killer's run with it in the stadium?
Right. So you're anticipating some things there, and that maybe I'm not gonna be gonna be assuming, and you're assuming that we would not have supervision. I believe at the zonal meets we've had supervision. In addition to that, we catered for volunteers, additional persons, and we are doing the same for the finals. So I anticipate that teachers will be there, principals will be there, as they were at the zonal meet. We probably did not have everybody there, but I think we had sufficient as it relates to supervision. And we also have a number of parents who are indicating that they would also be attending the games. But let's think of worst case scenario. I always like to think of worst case scenario. The Royal Grenada Police Force and all of the relevant stakeholders who offer support at all of those meets will be there. Right? So that's one thing. The second thing is as it relates to Mr. Killer. Let me make this point that the Ministry of Culture is coordinating, the cultural package, which would be about 30 minutes. Very clear direction was provided as it relates to the content of that package and what songs are going to be sung during that package. So that's all I would say. That guidance has been provided as to what can be performed and what cannot be performed on Friday.
Okay, so I would love to hear your comments about the idea of adding a soca show, soca of all things, to the upcoming games. And you will have some time during the GIS report or at any point during the program. If you'd like to chime in, let us have your thoughts. We'd be happy to hear them. Actually, I see that already. There are some comments there. Let me, before I get into the piece from our visitor, let me say good morning to the folks out there in social media. TF is there, so is Bernard Gilbert, Peter Bishop, and Sherron. They're all saying good morning, and so is Hazel Ferguson. Hazel, thank you for joining us from the USVI. Good to see you. Lincoln Roberts is saying, good day to all God's children. Always remember that there's always something to be thankful for. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth, my friend? And he's sending much love to all of us. Kipling says, morning all, God's blessings. Sad but true. Most people, where did he disappear to? Yeah. Most people in Grenada don't vote for a party, but vote for what they're getting from it. A party or a person. Self before country. Therein lies the problem, Kipling. Self before country. Therein lies the problem. Dennis Clark is saying, George, the soca shows just to tapper over the abysmal failure that has become the government attempt to stage school games as a replacement for intercall. Okay, I knew there'd be some opinions out there. TF says, George, I questioned that very said idea from the first time the ad was aired on your program. How could we incorporate soca at a school meet in which the teachers cannot control the kids based on the environment? The next day, you'll hear the same, sometimes senseless ministers blaming the principals for their behavior. Lord help us all. I'm glad that we're both looking in the same direction, TF, to the Lord. This country, he's the only person who can help us right now. We are in the doghouse. He goes on to say, is this minister for real? Will the artist be singing gospel? She is a so-called Christian, so maybe she's in self-denial. I don't know. You know, it's going to be interesting to hear what Margaret has to say. I haven't seen her yet this morning, so I hope that she heard what the minister was saying about, issuing guidelines as to what can and cannot be sung, because I'm sure Margaret's going to have something to say about that. Anthony DeReg says the Soca show is aimed to pull a crowd, just like the political rallies. Then they will take pictures of the crowd who follow their favorite musicians and say, what a great success the sporting event was. Anthony, you've been there, eh? You know it. You know it. You're right. You're right. Jackie O is saying good morning from a very cold office in Washington, D.C. You know, Jackie, it was kind of chilly in here up to a couple of minutes ago. I just turned off the air conditioning. It was getting really, really chilly in here. So Peter Bishop says, I think it's not appropriate for a sport meet with young people. I think it's not appropriate for a sport meet with young people. But I give up. Well, you know something, Pedro? We can't give up. We can't. I know. I don't know of anybody who's more frustrated than I am, but I'm not giving up. Margaret, here comes Margaret. She says, good morning. So my take, if you're going to have a cultural package at the games, why could it not be student-centered? Why could we not have the Junior Calypso King, for example, and performances by students from the various schools? Hey, Mags, never thought of that. Makes a lot of sense. Keep things in their proper perspective. No. You know, if you listen carefully to that piece I played with a minister, it began with a reporter asking specifically about the run with it. And I don't think the minister she either didn't recognize the angle that the reporter was coming from, or she just chose to ignore it. Jackie, Jackie's asking Peter to send her a heater. Kipling says, this government is like lime. You use the lime skin when boiling. When boiling mild, so it won't turn. I guess he meant milk. So it won't turn. But the same lime juice will turn the mild. Mild? Say one thing in campaign, do something else in governance. That part I understand, Kipling. Yeah, it's amazing. You know, election time, we're going to be very moral and, you know, very, very discreet. But after that, yeah, big deal. Fitzroy is saying good morning. He's watching. Now, so let's move on. The following are some musings which this visitor to Grenada had since returning to Canada following her 10th visit to this island. 10 times this woman has come here to spend some time with us. And she's made 3 points here. The first, there are many problems and complaints in the area of traffic and transportation in St. George and the surrounding areas. Too many vehicles causing congestion, among other problems. Buses, they're unscheduled, overcrowded, and uncomfortably loud. Well, let me jump in here and say something in defense of the buses. Yes, I know she's absolutely right about the buses being loud. But let me tell you, if you think they are right now, let me tell you, they've come a long way. Used to be horrendous. I have actually gotten off buses because they were so loud with their in-house music. She goes on to ask the question, and just how roadworthy are some of them? That's absolutely true. Some of these buses are not in any shape to be on the roads. She's asking here, why not regulate, why not regulate public transportation so more people could take a bus instead of their car, especially to the downtown area? Good point. Number 2, she says that plastic is a recognized problem worldwide. Yet she saw no effort to resolve this problem, especially in the food stores. Why not instead offer reusable bags, which can be purchased for a nominal price? If you do not bring a reusable bag to the supermarket with you, then you are charged for the plastic bag. I'm not sure, but I think in at least one supermarket downtown that is the case. And finally, she says, customers, this is the one that really jumped at me. Customer service is something that varied from very pleasant and helpful to an attitude of, why are you bothering me? How many of you have been subjected to that? I know that I have, time and time again. And she goes on here to say, I do wish I had taken the names of the people who put a smile on my face with their great attitude so I could compliment them. Yeah. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. You know, I can only hope that some of the guilty parties are listening. Ha 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 ha. Let's see here now. Back to Facebook. Fitzroy is saying good morning. TF says, Margaret, I agree with you. Why not have the different drum corps do some pieces from the secondary schools? Another good idea. And Peter Bishop is also agreeing with Margaret and her idea. Petra Andrew Thomas is saying good morning. She's listening from Canada. Good morning, Petra. Nice to have you. And Benedict says, remember that this is the whining prime minister. Yeah, man. I have never been a good dancer. Maybe I should contact him one day and ask him to drop by and give me some private lessons. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. We remember that very well. Ashton Fletcher says good morning and sends us blessings for a wonderful day. Jackie says, Jackie-o, when I was in secondary school in 1998, the louder the bus, the better. Police officer Peter Bishop used to tell me, take the slow and quiet bus. Peter, yeah, Peter was a cop. Did you know that? Fitzroy says, are we not in the middle of Lent? I am listening to hear what the heads of churches have to say concerning the upcoming events. Fitzroy, my dear friend, I don't know you, sir, but I want to give you some advice. Don't hold your breath. Okay? Enough said. TF says, the regulating of the public transportation can and will only be effective if there are state-owned and operated services. As long as these buses are privately owned, it would be problematic. Wishful thinking. Wishful thinking, TF. State-owned? Does the state have a good record of administration? Huh? Petra Andrews says, I agree. They need to have better customer service in all sectors. Absolutely true, Petra. Oh, so you've been there. You know. Lori Bridgman says, George, we're willing to accept changes. I'm not sure what direction she's going there, but you've had your say, Lori. Good morning, people, she says. George, oh, are we willing to accept changes? I don't know. I'm willing to accept changes, but not at all costs. Changes for the better. Fragrance Emmanuel Bidot Francique. I have not seen this one. I'm sure I haven't seen this one before. He or she says school creative arts should be invited to do a show, but then there is no performing arts, etc. in the education system in Grenada. Yeah, okay. T.F. Richards says, Fitzroy, you would not hear anything from the Conference of Churches. Keith Mitchell is the one orchestrating these events, not the teachers. Okay, Pilgrims. Okay. Let me take a little break here, and then we'll come back with your favorite, the National Report.
Boy, you, they gonna fly with kite now. The wind picking up. I'm coming. Karim, what you doing?
Fly my kite.
Yeah, but not here. You can't fly kite near power lines, boy.
Why not? The wind good.
Because mommy say, kite threads conduct electricity.
Yeah, kite. He's right. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, it can cause power outages, or even worse, it can get shocked.
Come, let's go and fly them in the pasture.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kite threads conduct electricity. Do not fly kites near overhead power lines. This can lead to electric shocks and power outages. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, do not try to retrieve it. Release it and call GRENADA. Always fly kites in open areas. Keep your kites far away from roads. And remember, always clean up after yourself.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Start the stride to a healthy lifestyle at the 2019 annual Pump It Up Family Fun Walk. There'll be more fun, more smiles, and more prizes for families and friends. Join us in Carriacou on April 7th at 4 p.m. as we walk from the Harveyvale playing field to the Hillsborough tennis courts, and in Grenada on April 28th at 4 p.m. from the Montrouge playing field to the National Cricket Stadium. Packages cost $20 per person for up to 2 individuals and $15 per person for groups of 3 or more. Come out in your numbers to help us raise funds towards re-establishing the Carlton Home.
Welcome home.
All right, there's a note here from Petra Andrew Thomas. Petra says they need to embrace the arts, and this is where it needs to be exposed. I'm assuming that she means it needs to be exposed at in places such as school sports. Okay, thanks a lot, Petra. Good morning again, my dear friends on social media out there. Here comes your national report.
Ministry of Education says most schools have met deadline to submit student SBA scores. Details to this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back. With the details to the news for Tuesday, April 2nd, I am Sherron Noel. The Ministry of Education is reporting that the majority of schools have complied with the deadline for the submission of student scores for school-based assessments SBA. Minister of Education Honorable Emmeline Pear on Tuesday confirmed that 19 of the country's 22 secondary schools have entered the SBA scores. This news should come as welcome relief for some who have expressed concern in the wake of a call from the president of the Grenada Union of Teachers for SBAs to be delivered to the Ministry of Education without being graded.
At the end of Friday, there were 17 schools of the 22 secondary schools entering their schools online. At the end of Monday, we had a total of 19 out of 22 schools, and that was yesterday. I would anticipate that today we should have 22 out of 22, There has been some technical glitches experienced on the online system, not from our end, of course, you know, it's a regional system, and we have brought those to the attention of CXC. In addition to that, we have had calls from all the schools who schools that missed the deadline, asking for an additional 1 or 2 days extension.
Minister Pearce says the grading of the SBAs should not create any additional burden for teachers. SBAs, she says, are intended to assess and support student learning in the final 2 years of secondary school. If administered as intended, SBAs can also serve as class grades.
SBAs for us is viewed as what it is, a school-based assessment. And this assessment is not a final exam, as we can refer to paper 1 and paper 2 in the CISEC exam. SBAs are intended to be a continuous assessment of students, starting in Form 4. The intention is that throughout the process, teachers get to work with students to improve on their skills throughout the process. And at the end of the day, those scores over the period can be used for classroom assessment and for results that we obtain at the classroom level, at the school level. The final scores contribute to the students' performance at the end of CISEC exams, which is critical.
The Education Minister says a delegation from the Caribbean Examinations Council will visit Grenada soon and will engage with various stakeholders on SBAs.
Assessment. We have been in touch with CXC and have received a commitment that they would be prepared to come to Grenada within the next week or 2 to engage all of the necessary stakeholders in additional discussions on SBAs. We view it as critical that parents should understand SBAs. We view it as critical that there should be ongoing and refresher exercises as it relates to SBAs for teachers as well. And so we view this visit not just for the teachers, not just for parents, but also for education officials. And we consider this to be extremely important.
Quick action from Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, resulted in the executive members of the Seamen and Waterfront Workers Union having discussions Monday on the ongoing fallout from the collapse of Colonial Life Insurance Company, CLICO. Chairman of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union's Technical Core Committee on Insurance, Mr. Whitfield Harris, met with the executive members at the union's headquarters. It was the first such meeting between Mr. Harris and CLICO policyholders, and he provided updates on the current status of the CLICO situation, which essentially remains a legal issue with adjudicated matters handled by a judicial manager.
We have some issues with the plan as approved by the court. One of them being a major one, being that the court, in our opinion, erroneously described the individual entities in the respective jurisdictions as subsidiaries and not branches. Now that is critical because if we are treated, and that is precisely what we are, then there is no reason why Barbados policyholders ought to be treated any differently than we. It should be a homogeneous treatment, similar, consistent treatment across the board.
Although Mr. Harris did not have news of an imminent resolution of the matter, he spoke of ongoing attempts which have so far failed to bring about reimbursement for victims in Grenada and elsewhere in the Eastern Caribbean. The ECCU committee chair says a plan approved by the court in Barbados 4 years ago is being challenged by the ECCU as it gives a parent preference to policyholders in Barbados, with payout to those persons expected in Phase 1 and those in other countries in Phase 2. Making a brief appearance at the meeting, Dr. Mitchell said it is painful to hear of the grief the CLICO debacle has caused many persons. Though the Prime Minister himself is a victim of the CLICO fallout, he said it is nothing compared to the loss experienced by others. The Seamen and Waterfront Workers Union started its pension plan with CLICO as far back as 1962, with members that they employ sharing contributions to the plan. Over the years, some members would have accumulated several $100,000 in benefits, but today, many of them are left unable to take care of their basic needs.
The overriding concern was that the are going to lose their money. That is the overriding concern. Beneath that, and underpinning all of that, is what is being done to help them be optimistic, to help them think that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So I explained to them what the technical core committee was doing, and whilst they felt some reassurance there, they thought that their cause needed to have a higher profile, and I undertook in my next report to the Monetary Council to indicate that.
Dr. Mitchell has promised to initiate a conversation with his Barbadian counterpart on the CLICO issue, and he remains hopeful for a change in attitude on the matter. It is estimated that about 30,000 persons across Grenada and other Eastern Caribbean countries are victims of the CLICO debacle. Figures at this point are several years old, indicate CLICO assets are not sufficient to honor its liabilities. The disparity between assets and liabilities continue to be exacerbated with each passing day as the judicial manager assigned to the case is remunerated from these same assets. This is the National Report. We will be back after this break.
After 4 weeks of preliminary qualifiers, after 4 zonal meets, it all comes down to this one incredible day of exciting track and field action. It's the National Secondary School Games Grand Finals. The Eastern, Western, Northern, and Southern zones will face off. Gudday James Athletic Stadium, Friday, April 5th from 10 a.m. Excitement, tension, drama. The athletes will throw further, jump higher, and run faster. And inspirational halftime performances from Dash, Vaughn, and Mr. Killer. Witness poetry in motion, the fluidity of form and class. National Secondary School Games, the championship. Come feel the rhythm of the games.
Welcome back. Uniform sponsorship has been secured for the athletes who will take to the field and tracks in the final of the inaugural National Secondary School Games at the Gudday James Athletic Stadium on Friday, April 5th. That's according to Minister of Education, Emmeline Pear. Friday's games will feature athletes with the 2 best times from each race from the zonal meets at the Gudday James Athletic Stadium, Cuthbert Peters Park Wharf, Progress Park, and Hillsborough Playing Field. They will compete for the inaugural championship trophy.
The uniforms came into Grenada last Thursday, and DGCIL has funded the uniform. And not only that, it's actually in printing now. So the zones will have their colors, and the zones will be represented in full uniform.
Minister Pierce says logistics are in place, and she used the opportunity to commend Mr. Jerry Alexis, Curriculum Officer for Sports in the Ministry of Education. Mr. Curlin Peters, Assistant Coordinator for Sports, volunteers, and everyone who contributed to the success of the games to this stage.
Transportation, as usual, will be provided to all athletes, coaches, physical education teachers without a cost on that day. The rest of the school population, students, etc., will pay for their transportation as is normal in an intercall meet. So the schools will coordinate transportation. The students pay in advance or on the day, and they will be transported. There will be sufficient accommodation for them to be transported to the National Stadium. Of course, we know traditionally most students go straight to the National Stadium for intercall. However, we do have some students who go to the school and are transported from the school and then back to their homes, and that arrangement is in place. Let me also make the point that on that day, all normal classroom activities are suspended to facilitate the games.
The games will begin at 9 a.m. on Friday, April 5th with field events. And finally, Minister with responsibility for youth development, Honorable Kate Lewis, says St. Andrew will be the first stop for the reintroduced Parish Youth Parliament this month. She shared the information while presenting a ministerial update during the weekly post-cabinet briefing on Tuesday. She says among the positive achievements in the Ministry of Youth Development was the reintroduction of the National Youth Parliament on January 23, 2019. Which created a platform of expression for youth parliamentarians to discuss issues of national importance. It also presented an opportunity for them to better understand parliamentary procedures. Similar opportunities will be presented for those participating at the parish level.
The current participants will further be engaged in June and November of this year to complete the Youth Parliament stint. During this month, April 2019, the Ministry will reintroduce the Parish Youth Parliament. The first sitting will be held in St. Andrew by the end of this month. To date, all participants have been selected and training has already started in St. Andrew. Following the St. Andrew Youth Parliament, we will move on to the other parishes.
The Youth Development Minister also singled out the new Imani program as another positive for her ministry. The program currently engages approximately 2,800 trainees. The final batch was launched in November last year, with the life skill component already completed. Trainees in batch 6, she says, have been placed in 2 categories, apprentice and direct skills training in level 2 CVQ.
We have over 300 persons engaged in training in various areas, including business administration, welding, hospitality and villas, call contact operations, housekeeping, commercial food preparation, computer engineering, and construction.
The Imani program, she says, also has a scholarship component.
To date, we have approximately 100 of our trainees in the scholarship aspect of the program. In May and July of this year, respectively, some of our trainees will be graduating with bachelor's degree from St. George's University and associate degrees from T.A. Marisho Community College. Over 10 persons will be graduating with a bachelor's degree from St. George's University in the areas of nursing, biology, business management, IT, and accounting. We will have over 15 persons graduating from TAMCC in areas of pharmacy, social work, business studies, culinary arts, and building technology. This is a very important component of the Imani program as it allows trainees to pursue higher education.
And with this, we come to the end of the National Report for Tuesday, April 2nd, 2019. Recapping the top story. Ministry of Education says most schools have met the deadline to submit student SBA scores. I am Sherron Noel. Thank you for viewing.
Alrighty, folks, that's going to take care of the National Report. Now, while you were watching that, some of you were still dwelling on what we were talking about before the National Report, and I want to comment on, share the comments on that dialogue. Laurie Bridgman asked the question, are we willing to accept changes? Well, Anthony DeRiggs responded to Laurie by saying, changes that uplift, period. Okay? Fair enough. Then, John joined us and saying good morning from a windy dependency number 1. I like this comment here. Fragrance Emmanuel Bedeau Francique says, yes, correct. And once I worked in the city of Leeds in the UK with a group of youngsters. These young black men and women thought our culture was just jump up. 13 years later, these same young people are in films, theater, TV, radio, and teaching. Grenada is more than just a jump up and wine up and drink up country. I have now moved here in the last year. It's a permanent move because after my work in television and film, marketing and advertising, I totally feel we have multitudes to offer the greater world. Francique, I am looking forward to meeting you one of these days. I'm very interested in that background you just described there. Please try and get in touch with me. Then, T.F. Richards. T.F. Richards says, George, not to stray, but I was reading on social media that the NNP government has to pay another lottery, this time to Will Thompson. When will this end? The only entity that has made out more payments than the lottery's authority is the NNP. I wonder who's next. TF, yes, there is truth to that. I was speaking to Mr. Thompson's attorney yesterday, and he's going to be on the program on Sunday because this situation is really out of hand, really out of hand. We're doling out millions of dollars to people because of the misdeeds of our government. You heard from Gemma Baines-Thomas just this past weekend. Anyhow, moving along, TF goes on to say the games would be the best organized games ever in Grenada, just to show up Keith and his cronies. And bet your bottom dollar he'll make a grand entrance. Peter says, the PM likes to be in the spotlight. Based on the headline, you will think the Seamen members got their money back from CLECO. Well, they haven't, Peter. They haven't. And there's still some very serious concerns to be dealt with before that actually happens, right? Kipling says, seems like the only ministry that is working exceptionally well is the unnamed Ministry of Propaganda. Now, it's up to us to figure out who heads this ministry. Hard task. TF says, didn't know there was an Amani program, a new Amani program. Well, now you know. See the things you learn here? Lori says, I really respect the rights of the Christian community, but around this time, but one must also remember that we are living in a world of glorious uncertainties, so there will be things we would like as well as things we would not. Respect to all at heart. At the end of the day, we are only one people. All the best to the games. SJC Grenville, all the way. Thank you, Lori. Then John says, re the Junior Parish Parliament. As Carriacou is not a parish, who represents the youth here, if any? Okay, folks, I'll tell you what. Rather than, hold on a minute, rather than going to a commercial break, I'm just going to go directly to our friend out there in Florida. Take a look. See, there she is. Good morning, Ms. Roberts, and how are you today?
Good morning, George, and everybody listening. I am good.
Boy, look at that smile, man. You light up the place with that smile this morning.
I can't, you know, actually, when I was much, much younger, they used to call me Smiley because as soon as you look at me, I smile.
Ah, okay. Well, that's good. That's good. I know that it's a difficult time for you because you're spending some time with your ill sister, but right. I do hope that there are better days ahead. We're praying for you.
Well, thank you very much for your prayers. I'm asking that you pray that God have mercy because right now it's in a very bad place.
It's all in His hands, Sherron.
Right.
And for us, I know it's difficult for us to cope with, but let me tell you, he knows what he's doing. He does.
Yep.
Okay, now, so
sometimes when your loved one are ill, you wonder if, but you have to just keep the faith and trust that he knows best.
yeah, yeah. And it doesn't always mean healing. It doesn't. But
that's right.
While that may be difficult for us to cope with, let me tell you, in the long run, it's always better for the person involved.
Yep.
Okay, so what's up your sleeve this morning, young lady?
Well, I've been listening to you and everybody else, and one of the things that's striking me is the Conference of Churches being so quiet with games and the calypso at this time. You see, we call ourselves a Christian community, and we look at the time that we're in now. This is Lent, the Lenten season. This is a time supposedly of repentance and getting your life in order and rethinking. If it's the one time of the year that you sort of, I remember a sister telling me in convent, not so much of giving up, but of taking up. So you do something that that would be a sacrifice, you know? As soon as you stump your toe, you're bawling, oh God. But other than that, you don't have time for God. So
hypocritical, isn't it?
I'm not saying that all of us have to be Catholics. I am a Catholic. I'm one of these Catholics that believe that everybody have the say. To each his own. So if you want to, whatever religious group you want to belong to, that is entirely your choice and up to you. But we all focus on the same source, the same God, or whatever name you call him by, Allah, Jehovah, whatever. And if that is your source of strength, if it's the one time you're supposed to show respect, calypso, soca, couldn't they wait until after the 22nd to have the games, or have the games the week of the Friday after the 22nd of April? That's just 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away. What is so urgent that you have to have it during Lent? And I had just written down when Margaret, I really need to meet Margaret, you know, because I find we think alike so much. Why not use the junior soca monarch and things like that, people like that, the junior crowd for the games? Push the games back, use it. Why you need the rum telling me what to do, jump up and run, take something and run for these young people? And then when they get out of hand, you say, you see these young people, you can't control them, you're initiating it. Well, don't get me started on the Minister for Education in response to that question. I'm still waiting to hear what she's saying, because I haven't heard anything. Just rabbit and nothing of intelligence. That's a young lady that I used to like, you know, but she frustrated me. I don't know, we have to get another name. Can't be Minister for Education, because, well, in fact, they don't call themselves Minister for Education, they say Minister of Education. I don't know, they change it for to off. So that is my rant.
Well,
and,
okay. The folks out there have been listening to you, and TF says here, Sherron, there isn't a conference of churches. There is a conference of conspirators. They only make noise to suit their friend's position. They do not operate on a level playing field. What a shame, so says TF.
Well, I sort of want to agree with him, but because of my respect for the people I know within the Conference of Churches, but if they open their mouth, they're going to be attacked by the government's people. And I think they want to keep things, they're trying to be peacemakers. So if the government say the teachers this and they criticize them for correcting or not correcting SBAs, then that is the way they would go. And I am disappointed in them. I'm disappointed in them. And I have to speak to my friend, the bishop, to find out what is the the Catholic Church saying about this. Because I cannot, I guess I can, but I will not interfere with the other ministers of religion, the other religions. I'm a Catholic, so I will speak to the Catholic community to find out, the Catholic bishop to find out, what are you saying about this? Regarding the correcting of SBAs, I was a teacher, and I don't oppose things because everybody else opposing them. I don't support people just because I was a teacher. I would support the teachers not correcting SBAs. You cannot punish the kids by not correcting the SBAs in order to punish the government. The reality is this: the SBAs carry a certain amount of points. The kids need the SBAs to be corrected, because not getting the points would fail them in the exam. And not getting that, you mean they have to do it another time, another year, where they would be out of secondary schools. They might not be able to do the SBAs. You have to meet the kids halfway. Don't punish your children because of the government. I would say they should correct the SBAs, let the kids do their exams, because they have to move on, and that can affect their lives for the rest of their lives. So I am very sympathetic towards the students in this case. Other than that, I totally support the teachers.
Okay. I'm trying to keep up, Sherron. Kipling says there is no law that discriminates against anyone being foolish. And that's the freedom so many enjoy in Grenada from top to bottom. Fragrance Emmanuel Bideau Francique says, we have a university hospital here in Grenada. Do they take observations of children under 16 and adults over 65 on the Tri-Island due to them being located here? If not, why? Dennis Clark says, Sherron, I fully agree. According to the preamble of our Constitution, we, the people of Grenada, have affirmed that our nation is founded upon principles that acknowledge the fatherhood and supremacy of God. You know, that's the part of the Constitution that just sticks in my heart. If you go by that, you can forget the rest of the Constitution.
That's right.
Margaret says, oh, where's Margaret? Dennis Clark, excuse me, Margaret is asking, hold on. Yeah. Margaret is asking, Dennis Clark, which and who's God? You want to chime in on that, Sherron?
I didn't understand what you said.
Dennis here said, Sherron, I fully agree. According to the preamble of our Constitution, right, we the people of Grenada have affirmed that our nation is founded upon principles that acknowledge the fatherhood and supremacy of God. So Margaret says, Dennis, which or who's God?
Exactly. You see, everybody use God as their convenience. When you the way I see it, you have a relationship with your God. It's like my relationship with you. If we have a good relationship, I could call you and said, George, you know, I am out of medication. I know you use the same medication. Give me one to hold me over for tomorrow. I can't do that with somebody I don't have a relationship with. You calling on God when you need God. Grenada, they call themselves a God-fearing community, but it's all for convenience. The people it's like the same government who, when in election time, they're coming to you and they're promising to do this and they're promising to serve and the minute they get into power, they forget that they're servants of the people. We have to kiss their foot to get an appointment. You have to beg. You cannot go and see the same people who used to come and knock on your door.
Margaret goes on to say here, so in other words, the Conference of Churches chooses to go along to get along. I wonder, WWJD. What's WWJD? She got me on that one. I don't know. But you know,
I don't know.
Just sticking on the Conference of Churches for a minute, you know, as a believer, I too, like so many Grenadians, am disappointed in the Conference of Churches.
Yes.
I would love to respect and uplift the conference because I believe they were intended for a good purpose. But anybody living in this country, I'm not speaking about the rest of the world, but anybody living here will tell you how let down the people of this country are. They will tell you themselves they're disappointed and there's an outcry out there. And I can only hope and pray that there will be some change. It seems like they just jump to the whims and fancies of government. Somebody made a comment somewhere earlier on who was talking about the fact that, well, they do this because they get money from the government.
Not only that, George, you know that ministers of government attack these people whenever they open their mouths. And I can prove it. I know for a fact of a certain priest that stood up and spoke out against them taking the money from the teachers in December, was it? Just before Christmas?
Mm-hmm.
And they called him at his home and attacked him. We understand you said so and so on the altar, and attacked him. So these people are being attacked for anything they open their mouth and say. I guess some of them are afraid to say no. The days when the priest and the preacher would speak out against what was wrong is gone.
Yeah, that's
because they're being attacked.
Yeah.
And in some cases they're not Grenadians, so they don't know if tomorrow they would approach them and ask them to leave.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, Margaret has just responded and telling us that WWJD means what would Jesus do?
What would Jesus do?
Yeah.
You remember when they were selling in the synagogue and he break up the place?
Yes.
Jesus had a temper too, you know.
Yeah.
Jesus reacted in an appropriate way each time.
Yeah.
He mashed up the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? So if Jesus was, and if God wasn't a merciful God, right now he'd mash up Grenada.
Yeah. Yeah. So Conference of Churches, please, exert your independence. You don't have to fear anybody. Remember, God is on your side. The same God you claim to be serving. He's on your side. You think these bozos could defeat you with God on your side?
They might try and tell you it's not in the Bible that you, well, the Bible didn't have Lent. All this is new.
That's right.
But you would they would try and use some argument as to why they have to allow them to do what they want to do. But you know something? If I had the power, I would shut them up. Not the Conference of Churches. All these so-called people that run into the church on Sunday and pretending that they're so good, the government people are talking about. Like stuff for education and the prime minister and all of them. The hypocrites. They're too hypocrite. And they know that me, Sherron Roberts, I just tell them as it is, because the reality, what you're going to do, you're going to beat me? You're going to terrorize my family any more than you're terrorizing them? You think I really give two hoots? I don't. I say it as it is. I call a spade, and if you want to be a fork, a sorry, you're a spade. And right now, Keith Mitchell and all of them, they're just totally out of control. You see this 15 seats they give them? They suddenly think that that made them God. But wait, the longest rope have an end.
Has an end, yeah.
Wait, you will see what will become of them. You're going to be sorry for them.
T.F. Richards says, but Sherron, if the Conference of Churches is being attacked, it's better that they keep their mouths shut than support the wrong or take one-sided approaches.
Exactly. Better to just shut them out. I agree with Richards. It's better that they say nothing at all than to be taking this side. Why correct or why say anything at this point if you can say what is right?
Margaret says, yes, Sherron, that's the exact action of Jesus Christ that came to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jackie O says, call them out. Yes. See, there are people out there who understand. They know what's going on. Anyhow, like Sherron said, the longest rope has an end.
Yeah.
He's putting us through this for some reason. Maybe we deserve it. I don't think he's getting a laugh out of doing this to us. He's putting us through this for a reason. In due course, that will be revealed. And as I've been reading in my inspirationals at the end of this program, we will be delivered. We will be delivered. Actually, we got to go, Sherron, but I want you to stick around and pay attention to the inspirational that I'm going to be reading in a few minutes. Okay?
George, I remember some time ago, I criticized one of my siblings publicly about something they did that was wrong in my eyes. And somebody called me and they said, isn't that your brother? I said, yes. You, George, know how close we are. I'd love to see another family that's closer than us. We call each other's children our children. And I tell him, I said, he is my brother and I love him dearly. But if you do something wrong, wrong is wrong and it cannot be right. It is wrong. And they know that I stand up for anything that is wrong, I call you out on it. And that should not affect our relationship. But I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, that's who Sherron Roberts is. What you see is what you get. And we came from a family where my mother would do the same. She call you out and she tell you in the same tone, I love you. You know? So if anybody expect any different, this is who I am.
All right, Sharon, I got to go, but there's some comments here on Facebook I want to share with you. T.F. Richards says, speak out, Sister Sharon. Jackie O, earlier on this morning, Jackie O said that she was in a cold office in Washington or wherever it was this morning. Well, here she is saying now, my office warmed up now. I thank you, Miss Sharon, for the extra heat. Margaret Francis says, Sharon, they are not hypocrites. They are cunning and conniving. They fully understand the role of religion in Grenada, and they are basically exploiting it. Mark's got it right. Religion is the opiate of the people, a pacifying tool. Laurie Bridgman says, sadly, nobody's talking about the bishop in the conference Nobody's talking about the bishop and the churches abusing youngsters in church. So please. Edith Phillips says, in days gone by, the churches were the first to speak out. Do you remember them days, Sherron?
That's right. That's right.
And finally here, TF says, I have dealt with Miss Roberts in the past, and she's really straightforward. You go give it to them, Sherron. Okay, folks, my dear, my prayers are with you. God bless you. God bless your sister. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Sherron Roberts joining us there from Florida. And always good to see her. She'll be back next Wednesday morning, I think it is. Quick break, folks. Quick break. Come right back after this.
Boy, yo, they gonna fly with kite now. The wind picking up.
I'm coming. Karim, what you doing?
Fly my kite.
Yeah, but not here. You can't fly kite near power lines, boy.
Why not? The wind good.
Because mommy say kite threads conduct electricity.
Yeah, Kite. He's right. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, it can cause power outages, or even worse, it can get shocked.
Come, let's go and fly them in the pasture.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Kite threads conduct electricity. Do not fly kites near overhead power lines. This can lead to electric shocks and power outages. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, do not try to retrieve it. Release it and call GRENADA. Always fly kites in open areas. Keep your kites far away from roads. And remember, always clean up after yourself.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
Pump it up, pump it up. Pump it up, pump it up. Pump it up. Start the stride to a healthy lifestyle at the 2019 annual Pump It Up Family Fun Walk. There'll be more fun, more smiles, and more prizes for families and friends. Join us in Carriacou on April 7th at 4 p.m. as we walk from the Harveyvale playing field to the Hillsborough tennis courts. And in Grenada on April 28th at 4 p.m. from the Montrouge playing field to the National Cricket Stadium. Packages cost $20 per person for up to 2 individuals and $15 per person for groups of 3 or more. Come out in your numbers to help us raise funds towards re-establishing the Carlton home.
Welcome home.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Alrighty, folks, forgive me. We've gone over time again this morning, but I am so delighted that the conversation that took place here this morning. Thank you so much, Grenada, for speaking out in our quest for good governance in this country. That's what this program's all about. Thank you. Please don't be afraid to speak. I know that a lot of you, when you see what I have been through, a lot of you are afraid to speak. Don't be, my dear friends, don't be. You've seen what's been done to me? Take a look. I am still here and will be for as long as God wants me to be. Don't be afraid. He'll protect you. Isaiah 65, verses 17 to 21 says, I will create new heavens and a new earth. The former things will not be remembered, nor will they come to mind. But be glad and rejoice forever in what I will create. For I will create Jerusalem to be a delight, and its people a joy. I will rejoice over Jerusalem, and will take delight in my people. The sound of weeping and of crying will be heard in it no more. Ever, never again will there be an infant who lives but a few days, or an old man who does not live out his years. The one who dies at 100 will be thought a mere child. The one who fails to reach 100 will be considered accursed. They will build houses and dwell in them. They will plant vineyards and eat their fruit. Read it yourself. Isaiah 65, verses 17 to 21. John says, good show, George. Thank you, John. Folks, time to scoot. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope that in some small way you've been blessed this morning. Please, in defense of your country, not theirs, yours, speak out. God bless you, and by His grace, let's get together again tomorrow morning.